For most of us living in Northfield in the year 2001, life is pretty good. It's a nice town. Education level is high. Incomes are good. We've got a nice downtown, nice surrounding countryside, good schools, the colleges, nice churches, a good economic base, and most of us live in comfortable surroundings. Most of us, but not all of us. Another side to life in Northfield is that we also have residents who are struggling to make ends meet, and their difficulties are magnified when it comes to having adequate, affordable housing. The fact is, there is simply not enough of it in Northfield. Here are some population and housing statistics taken from the 2000 census and the recent Rice County, Minnesota housing study, which was completed in January 2000. Northfield's year 2000 population was approximately 17,000 people, a 17% increase from 1990. From 1990 to 1998, Northfield's household growth increased more than 17%. A 10% growth in households is projected by the year 2003, which is about 700 new households. Northfield has a high renter occupancy rate, 36%, with an extremely low vacancy rate. From 1990 to 1999, 254 renter units were built in town, with none built in 1999. Monthly rents vary from $300 per month to $925 per month. Northfield has 9 subsidized rental projects. By 2003, over 250 rental units need to be built. Approximately 60 of these need to be moderate rent and or tax credit housing. Housing's tight all right in our town, but there is a bright side, because there are some Northfielders who have tackled this problem head on.
And then you turn that 90 degrees,
Basically, we're trying to make housing for as low cost as possible and do it all through volunteer labor, both for renovating of the property and also for maintaining the property over the next 10 or 15 years.
We felt that if we could encourage volunteers to manage and operate a low-income housing project, that we should be able to come in under market and still provide quality housing long-term that the community can use.
What this is about is the renovation or transformation, really, of the old Hillcrest Motel on the north end of town.
It started with a bunch of church people, happen to be the Methodist church in town here, and they have a breakfast at 6:30 in the morning on Fridays. And somebody had brought up the information that the owners of the property, the Sjogrens, were going to sell it or been trying to sell it for a while. And they've been talking about housing and low-income housing and so forth. And they kind of, one person put the idea together with the information they were going to sell, and it kind of germinated from there.
When we first started into this, we connected with the Community Action Center and asked for some direction as to how people find housing in Northfield, where they come from to get housing in Northfield, what were the needs of the community. And from those surveys that we got from the Community Action Center, we've kind of decided on how we were going to build these units here to meet the needs of our community. We
took the individual cabins, and a couple of them had been renovated by the previous owner and were in pretty good shape, and so people moved right into those right away. But the two we're working on right now start out by gutting them. It's all the wiring has to go, windows have to go, it needs to be re-insulated. So basically taking it down to the shell. Now along the way we've added 2 bedrooms onto each of the 2 cabins we're renovating, and so there's another equal sized chunk in the back of it, so it works out to be about a 750 square foot kind of mini home when it's all done.
This housing project provides both low-cost transitional and emergency housing to those in need. Its official name is Hillcrest, but to those working on it, it's known as the Manger Inn.
When we established and chose the name Manger Inn Partners in Service, the Manger Inn reminds us of the fact that once upon a time there was an inn that had no room for travelers.
The Manger Inn began as an effort of just a few people. What is remarkable about it, though, is how quickly it expanded into a community-wide effort.
Over 300 volunteers that have participated to this point. A lot of churches, Bethel's been involved, St. Dominic's, a congregational church, a number of different youth groups, and some of the businesses in town have been involved. That's on a volunteer basis. There's also been financial contributions towards it, but it's really had a lot of participation from a wide variety of folks.
But make no mistake, this has also been a tough undertaking for all involved.
Well, it's a lot bigger project than we envisioned.
Oh, twice as long as we anticipated, but along the way we've added a lot of nice features. In the 2 units that we just finished, we've got parquet floors in there, and some really nice features, nice countertops and so forth. So we went a lot further than we ever had planned in the beginning.
Now, a very important part of this effort involves how it has been funded, which is very innovative.
It is formed as a limited liability company, as a for-profit organization, which means that the government of the organization and the reporting are done like any other business.
Not-for-profits that are formed to provide services of this sort are not eligible to take advantage of most of the federal subsidy programs that rely on tax rebates to persons who invest in low-income housing. So we set up a limited liability company as a for-profit corporation, if you will, with the partners consenting in their subscription agreements to agree never to withdraw any profits from the corporation.
From the way it's structured, I would expect the investors to get their original investment back through tax credits that are available, legal tax credits that are available to any organization, not just a nonprofit that invests in this kind of housing. The tax credits alone should return the investment to the investors within 10 years. And then there may be some additional increment on top of that from cash back at the end and from the charitable deduction that's available at the end, the tax implications of the charitable deduction that's available at the end.
We had the idea around the first of the year, last year in 2000. We had the partnership up and operating and unit shares sold by May. We broke ground on first changes in May. We rented the first 3 units in the fall of the same year. We have 2 more ready now, and the last 2, which will make 7 in place, will have happened in only about a year and a half from a standing start. You typically can't do that if you attempt to set up something that relies on grants or on establishing a not-for-profit approach.
This approach may even serve as a model for other communities.
There's a lot of interest in it, and I hope that it spreads. Good grief, if we drive across America, not just Minnesota, virtually every small town, someplace on the edge of town on a nice piece of property with mature trees and some good grass, has a for sale sign on a mom and pop motel that can't make it anymore.
I think it's certainly a workable model. I think it requires that the investors have a long vision of what they're doing. I think they need to be in a position to have their money invested for the minimum 15 years, which is what the tax credits are based on. So they need to have a 15-year horizon.
But the important thing here is who the project is serving and what it says about our community.
Oh, I think it's just great to think of families moving into a nice, clean, comfortable place and being able to pay the rent. And I just think it's doing a great service for the community.
The thing that makes me feel the best at the moment is the number of people who have come forward understanding that in this case the volunteer work they're doing is to provide a service for the people in need.
My wife and I have lived in Northfield for 26 years now. We've raised 6 kids here, and this is just another example of Northfield where people come together and working together, and we've really made what I think is a significant contribution in terms of a tangible asset that can be used by people, and done it in a reasonably short period of time.
It's really been a community activity, and it's all come together very well. It's been very satisfying to be part of it.
Oh, I really enjoy it. It's a good bunch of people to be working with. They've always been welcoming and patient with my lack of skills. I feel like we're doing some good work. I feel like I'm able to contribute.
I think Northfield has a heart.
Last time we did this, it was 4 years ago, and you were just finishing this up. And can you tell me where we are 4 years later now?
Well, basically, we've been occupied, completely occupied, except for the normal transitions between tenants. Almost every time when we have a vacancy, there is somebody waiting to come in. So we take a little time to do a little cleanup and repairs and things of that sort. But basically, they've been occupied completely since we started.
Can you tell me a little bit about what kind of a service is this providing to the community?
Basically, what we're doing is supplying housing to people who qualify for HUD Section 8, and that means that they get assistance on their rent. Basically, they pay about 30% of their income for the rent, which means that what they pay will be quite varied, and HUD makes up the difference. But it's people who have low enough income that 30% of their income is not enough to pay the rent for this sort of unit. We realized that we had a prospective tenant that needed a handicap accessible unit. So one of these small units, as we were doing the remodeling, one of the requirements, of course, is you have wider doorways for a wheelchair. If you have a hallway, it has to be significantly wider so the wheelchair can rotate. The bathroom, what we needed was basically a shower that you could roll a wheelchair into, and some other things in the kitchen and some other locations where the height of things had to be changed, things of that sort. And so they got all the regulations and figured out what we had to do, and of course we had to put a ramp on the front instead of steps. And it was a new experience for all of us, and it was a lot of bother trying to figure out what the rules are. But once you know what the rules are, you can build it to fit those specifications, and so we did. And apparently it's worked out very well. I guess my feeling is that we always seem to find a few people who are willing to take on way more than seems reasonable, and then enlist other people to do smaller things. And I think that's going to continue if we can simply locate the things that need to be done, that we can, and take them in workable chunks. We can organize a lot of volunteer effort to do lots of things. Historically, it's like a lot of other towns. We've started things like the Community Action Center and the food shelf and things of that sort that were started by a handful of volunteers, and they've now become just established units for services that not everybody needs, but a sizable chunk of the population needs.